Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to today's episode of the Fair Game Podcast. Our guest is joining us from Springfield, Missouri, where she's the director of meetings for the IAFE. Kate Turner, I'm glad to finally have you on the show.
Hey, everybody. Glad to be here.
Yep, glad to have you with us. Let's right off the top, let's just clear something real quick for our listeners, and I'm sure this is going to send all 8 listeners, they're going to tune out after this little announcement. If you are tuning in today in hopes of getting some juicy tidbits on the search for a new CEO, now that Marla has announced her retirement, this is not the episode you're going to get it on. Today, we are talking about the 2024 IAFE convention in Phoenix, but in the event you want some information, the most updated information on where we stand in the search for a new CEO at IAFE, Kate, Jeremy has been doing an incredible job keeping people updated, and I know there's some updates on your website. If folks want to know more about what's going on with the CEO search, where on your website can they find it?
So it is on our IAFE.com, or I'm sorry, fairsandexpos.com website, and it's under the About tab, and that's where you will find all the updates.
Excellent. So all the information, if you folks are curious what's going on, where does it stand, the most updated information is at fairsandexpos.com under the About tab. Jeremy Parsons from the Iowa State Fair is heading up that committee and has been doing a great job with the updates. And with that, let's talk about some really exciting stuff. We got IAFE 2024 coming up here the weekend and week after Thanksgiving, and it is in Phoenix, Arizona. That's an interesting pick because we went from the desert in Vegas, we went to the desert in Texas. Then we get up in the Midwest. Last year we were in up in Salt Lake City. It was cold. I think it was a good site selection overall for the convention. I'm not sure how if Salt Lake becomes a repeat, but now, hey, we're going to the desert where we're probably going to be having to suffer in the cold of winter, Kate, in like 70-degree weather. What are we going to do?
I know it. And everybody who lives in Phoenix tells me December is their favorite month to be in Phoenix. So
because you can actually go outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, Arizona's got beautiful weather. I did 3 fairs down there with the Arizona Fairs Association and their group this year. They're terrific fairs. They're good people. If you could, Kate, talk a little bit about the site selection, because like I said before, we've gone from Vegas to San Antonio, Indianapolis, Salt Lake. It feels like we're just bouncing all over the place. What goes into the site selection process for you guys?
Well, first, it's not a short process. It's about an 18-month process total from the time we put out an RFP and are asking for different cities to make bids. But we cast a really wide net. And I think that is reflected in the fact that we have been to several different places. But we open it up for RFPs, and then we generally get back a couple dozen of them, and you have to then start narrowing it down. There are some that just don't meet our criteria or, don't have the availability that we need at that time. Kind of like, I guess, kind of like a fair where maybe they don't have 26 available, but they've got 27 available. It just kind of depends on that kind of criteria.
Sure.
So we narrow it down and try to narrow it down to 3 or 4 cities. We do go look at every city. And
so there's considerable expense for IAFE, and if you narrow it down to 4, you're only picking 1. So 75% of that money that you're putting into is just to eliminate 3 cities and knock down to that final one.
It may be, or it may be that okay, that's not the right city for that year.
Sure.
It may. So, even though we've narrowed it down to 3 or 4 cities, that doesn't mean that we're not picking them ever. We might pick them for the next year. But there are also some cities we get to, and it's just like, we can't visualize our convention in that city.
Sure. Can you give us an idea? What are some of those criteria specifically that you're looking at?
Well, when you think about our convention, there is a combination of things that need to be available. A trade show space that is somewhere between 80 to 100,000 square feet. So you've got to have that big room. We need breakout spaces. We need a general session space. We need a X number of hotel rooms that are within a space that either is walkable, or are we going to consider busing people? And we've tried to stay away from that.
Sure.
Um, and so
Busing gets expensive if you're starting to do that
it's
from hotels
expensive, and
2 miles away.
the coordination of it.
Yeah,
So those are some of the things that we're looking at. But we look into all kinds of details. We compare their food and beverage pricing. We compare the labor costs. We look at, as a trade show exhibitor, when you're trying to load in, what's that process going to look like for you? We talk to them about parking. We talk to them about there's I don't know, there's hundreds of different things that we ask questions about when we're trying to make those decisions and make them that so they're the best decisions for the association.
sure, sure. I personally, as an exhibitor, will say that I've actually kind of enjoyed, and I think I've benefited from it going to different cities. One of the things that came up, Sarah and I were talking about years ago when we made the jump out to San Antonio, when Sarah was asking about what I thought on that, and I said I think it's going to be a good thing because it's going to shake up the trade show floor. We're what I call a loud trade show to begin with. I mean, you've got stilt walkers and somebody's got racing pigs or pet alligators or
You got to hear me describe our trade show to my other meeting planner friends who are doing things for, I don't know, accountants or doctors or things like
right.
that. And then
How
I
would
get to
you
describe ours.
how would you describe it?
Anything that you see at the fair is
Yeah.
going to be on our trade show floor.
Yeah. I always describe it as loud. Like it's bright colors, it's jugglers, it's magicians, it's conjure fortune machine. It's all the things. And then when you think about the room visually in Las Vegas, Paris had a very what I would call a loud, very busy carpet. So everywhere our fair personnel were walking, it was just sensory overload. And then we go to San Antonio, and I told Sarah, I said, I think it's going to be good because it'll toss the trade show floor. Because you had people in Vegas who they knew where those 15 acts where they needed to go talk to, and they went directly to them and they left the trade show. You go to San Antonio, all of a sudden it's like, well, where is everybody? Now it forced people to open their eyes. And because it's a true convention room, you just had gray carpet up and down the aisles. And so you didn't have that stimulus. And sure enough, that first year, Linnell Smith walks by from Sydney Royal Easter Show and looks at the fortune machine and goes, well, this is cool. When did you start this? And I'm like, I think at that point it was like 5 or 6 years earlier. And she was like, no, I've been to Vegas every year. I haven't seen this there. I'm like, see, I knew it. I knew what happened. So I kind of like the jumping to different cities and getting to experience different things. I'm curious though, is there something IAFE is hoping to accomplish going 1 year, one city, or is there maybe an idea for the future that this is kind of like an audition for, do we find a spot, a home where it's maybe 3 years East Coast, 3 years West Coast, something like that?
I feel like we will eventually get into where we are repeating cities. I mean, we're all, like I said, we're always looking for what's best for the association. And as we've experienced those different cities, they've brought different aspects to the convention or different opportunities to the convention. And as our demographics started skewing lower, those people were looking for different experiences.
Mm,
And so again, it just really brought that aspect into our convention that, Vegas is always, there's always something to see in Las Vegas, but it just allowed our convention to be something different. We've been able to attract new people,
yeah,
different people who had never could go, either because it was completely across the country or because, there was a period of time where certain agencies wouldn't allow people to go to Las Vegas because of the stigma that was there.
yeah,
And even like with the when we were in Indianapolis, so many people could drive.
yep,
We saw a lot of new, smaller fairs that were closer to the convention that could come if they could, because they were volunteers. Maybe they came for a day,
yeah,
but they got to come and experience it for the first time.
yeah. Well, and that's one of the things I know I've spoken with other entertainers and other attractions about. From our standpoint, sitting on that trade show floor, Indianapolis was fantastic because you had so many of those smaller fairs that if you're that fair and you can't afford to send a delegation of 5 people to San Antonio or even Phoenix or Las Vegas, you could probably make a 3-hour drive into Indianapolis. If you consider just geographically, I mean, what percentage of fairs would you guess in our industry or are along the Mississippi River or east of it?
Along the Mississippi, I'm not sure. I haven't ever thought about it along that
Yeah,
corridor, but there's so many that are in the Midwest
yeah,
that are just were like I said, we're able to drive that couldn't drive to
sure.
some of the other locations. So they got a taste of what we can do.
Right. Well, and I think that's super helpful for acts because a lot of those fairs wouldn't be able to bring an act in from across the country by themselves. But when they find out, oh, we're a little 4-day fair the week after the Kentucky State Fair. Oh, you're at the Kentucky State Fair. Well, we're only 4 hours away. Now things start to financially make sense with routing. So, for what it's worth, in talking to the membership on our side and the associates, there was a lot of value in being in the Midwest. So, for
Yep.
future planning, I think there's definitely something to be said for that. But we're not in the Midwest this year. We are in the desert. We are not far from my home here in Albuquerque. We're going to be down in Phoenix with great weather. And other than that fabulous weather, Kate, what can attendees expect from the 2024 show?
Well, we're going to kick off with a street party,
Mhm.
and it is kind of like what we did in Indianapolis or what we did in Salt Lake. But instead of sending everybody out to another location, it's going to be right downtown, right outside the convention center. And
So, are we closing off streets for this party?
we are closing off streets for this party.
Oh, wow. We're going to be real
And
popular with those folks.
well, it's only one street. The convention center is actually divided into two buildings.
Okay.
And the street between them is what we are shutting down, Third Street. They call it the
Oh, okay.
Canyon on Third.
Got it.
And this has been in the works actually since 2019 when we actually booked this. They were just starting to shut down the Third Street for events. And they said, well, do you want to build that into your contract? And we're like, oh yeah, that would be awesome.
Sounds fun.
And maybe we can set a Ferris wheel up. It was kind of what we said at the time. We'll have to talk to some of our partners and see if we can't get this done. Well, I went to one of my meetings, a meeting planners convention that was in Phoenix. And part of the opportunities, they had different activities we could do, but this was in I think 2022. I could take a tour of the convention center, and I thought, okay, I haven't been there in a couple years. I need to go see it again. I'll take the tour. And sure enough, we're on this tour, and the director of the facilities giving the tour, and he says, and we have a customer coming in that's going to put a Ferris wheel. And I thought, oh, that's me, or that's our convention. And
Excellent.
so they're excited about it, but it will be a street party. We will have dancing. We will have a DJ. We're going to have, of course, food and beverage and things too, but that will be lots of fun to kick off the event.
Excellent. Are you
Then,
able to say who's providing the Ferris wheel?
RCS.
Excellent. I love those guys. Worked with them at OC Fair for a
Yes.
lot of years.
So, and then, and this, so that will be lots of fun to get everything started. We are going to do some experiences again. Most of them are going to be scheduled on the Thursday morning at the end of the convention,
Okay.
but look for those to be announced this week or this month. I'm sorry. And we will be we are going to take a tour of Westworld, which is a large horse facility at Scottsdale. And that's going to be one of them. We're also working on a tour with the Footprint Center, focused on, they have like an ADA specialist on their staff. So that will be one. And what else? But there will be a couple others that we're going to be announcing at the end of this month and open the registration for those events.
That's outstanding. It sounds like you guys have put in a ton of work for this one and you're getting really creative with that opening party. And is that Sunday night that's going to happen?
Sunday night, yes. We'll have a full day of education on Sunday.
Okay.
And so then this will cap it off on Sunday night. one of the other new features of our convention, we decided that not everybody is a bright and early morning person. So we are going to have coffee and connections first thing in the morning. So if you want to join us, you can, but you're not going to be missing out on the educational sessions. So each morning, and there will be different rooms that have different discussions. If you want to talk about agriculture, or you want to talk about entertainment, or you want to talk about commercial exhibits, there will be
Okay.
different rooms for them. And so be kind of a more casual start to the morning, and get those conversations going, but you won't have to, if you're not a first thing in the morning person, you won't have to be trying to learn education first thing in the morning.
So do I take that to mean the ed sessions are going to start just a little bit later this
A
year?
little bit later. So instead of 8 o'clock, we'll start more around 9.
I am one of those people that 1 hour could make a big difference in the day. So I'm thinking
Well,
you're probably going to have even more folks turning up for those early ed sessions. Because that extra, we're one of those groups, and I think a lot of conventions are like this, that after things are over at the end of the night, like the number of people I know that they go to dinner at 8:30 or 9. That's when they do dinner. And I'm like, man, I do dinner like 5. But
yeah.
we go late, we stay up late, we visit. For a lot of us, we haven't seen each other in, 6 months or a year. And so I think having an extra hour in the morning is probably a good thing. Let's
Yeah,
talk.
we have lots of cool things happening.
Yep. Let's talk trade show.
Okay.
Last I checked in with Steve, he was almost sold out. It looked like he had, I'm going to guess, maybe a dozen, maybe 15 booths left, which he was saying for at this point in the season is kind of super unusual, that usually he's got way more of the floor still open. Anything new coming on the trade show front? Anything we can expect in that show?
Well, you're right. Steve has actually had to open up some more spaces because we've had lots of interest in there. Some of the things that he's done in the trade show, there will be some larger, more enhanced um, center section of the lounge area spaces. There also will be some more seating scattered around, but just it'll be a larger space overall with more booths to go visit.
Sure. Sure. Excellent. So that's always good news, that we're getting a good, nice full trade show. Coming up, with registrations and things like that, inevitably there's deadlines. I think initially I was going to release this episode September 3rd, but I actually think I'm going to release it this coming Tuesday. Just for anybody listening, for continuity, we're recording on Wednesday, August 21st. So with that in mind, are there any important deadlines coming up that attendees, either on the trade show side or on the fair side, any of those deadlines that they need to be aware of?
Sure. So watch for those announcements on the educational experiences, because because we're still finalizing details. One of the things we had to wait on was the NBA schedule to be released. So watch for that announcement. October 1st is the early bird deadline. So that will be the first time there's a price increase for registration. So get those in early, and then we'll keep going with registration through the 1st of November. Again, there will be a price increase at that point. And for you as trade show exhibitors, make sure and send in the people who will be working your booth. That'll just make the whole check-in process a whole lot easier. Make things go a lot quicker as you're trying to, get your badge, get your booth
Right.
and everything like that. That'll make things go a lot quicker. The trade show and registration are all up on the 3rd floor of the convention. And so that will be kind of a gathering space.
Okay, cool. So make sure, especially if you're on our side, and I know I've talked to Steve a number of times about this. These two things right here can be the bane of his existence, and that is not getting your badge list in, because then we all are sitting there waiting for everybody at the counter to get our badges, because if we weren't responsible, now they're printing them on site instead of ahead of time. Do that, and make sure you get your COIs in. Make sure you get your
Yes,
additional insured.
certificates of insurance,
You need
your
those
signed
certificates in.
contracts,
Yep.
and your
Yep.
badge form.
So I think this is going to be a fantastic year. I'm excited that it's in Phoenix. It's only a 6-hour drive for me. So good things are coming. when you look back at all the IAFE conventions that you've been a part of, is there one in particular that you look at and you say, that's it. That's the one all conventions should be judged by?
That's hard because one of the things I always say about the convention or any of our meetings is if we do a perfect one, we're not doing any more. And obviously we have not
Then we're
done a
done.
perfect one. So,
Right.
one that was pretty special, even, being back after COVID was pretty special. And even a management conference is another meeting that I work on. And our 2022 conference, after not having one for 2 years, and we really shift focus at that management conference, and it was focused on those people as a leader and leading their organizations.
I am curious, when you get feedback from the membership about convention, be it trade show related, ed sessions, site selection, things like that, what are the things that you're hearing most in your feedback from the membership?
Well, one of the things that I focus on a lot is the logistics and the education part of it as far as my job. And so one of the things that we hear a lot is there was too many workshops at the same time that I wanted to go to all of them.
Sure.
How do I duplicate myself? And so, I mean, we try really hard. You can't see with my background, but in my office, we actually have dry erase paint on the wall. And so we can write on the walls.
Literally on the walls.
It's the convention schedule is literally written on my walls. And so I write down all the rooms that are available and then start plugging in different workshops.
Sure.
And as the convention builds, and I invite our other staff into my office, and I'm like, okay, what conflicts am I not seeing? And we'll move things around, and then we get things scheduled. I would say there always can be a conflict. My job might be sponsorship and marketing, but your job might be sponsorship and booth sales or something like that. And
Right.
so just different aspects, but we try to eliminate those as much as possible. The other comment that we see sometimes is, don't schedule education on the trade show. We don't. We never
Yeah.
have.
Yeah.
So that's one that is always like, well, I wonder what there isn't education spelled on top of the trade show.
I think when I hear a lot of the entertainers say stuff like that, and then I look at the schedule, the things that are programmed against it aren't IAFE things. It might be a local fair managers getting together, or I don't know, something else that's going on that's a YPI thing or something that it's not IAFE actually programming it. It's an independent group that's programming against it. And then you're only looking at a few dozen people that might be at it. So it is what it is.
There's some small committee meetings or things like that.
Correct.
But we purposely do not do that because, the trade show is vital to our convention also. And so we're not gonna jeopardize that.
For sure. Here's a thought. And you guys bat this one around in your office and make a decision. I just submit this as an idea for those people that inevitably, like you say, they go, oh, I needed to be here because I do entertainment, but I also help with marketing. And I had to be at this one, but I missed this one. Is it impossible to audio record, not necessarily video? Cool if you can get video, but audio record every one of these ed sessions and make them available on the IAFE resources page for attendees after the fact?
It is something that we have reviewed, and it's something that we continue to look at. One of the things that you and I might talk about is, what's something I'd want to change, and it's the cost of things and just the added cost to be able to do that. We haven't been able to feasibly make that work.
Got it. Yeah, because I was going to ask if you could snap your fingers and change one thing about the convention, what would it be? And it sounds like you just answered it. It would be costs, because certainly if and I don't know what it would cost, but if you have, you're working with the convention center and they say, yeah, we can provide audio recording in every room, it's going to cost you an additional, $5,000, $10,000, I don't know what the number is. You probably would know better, but that cost has to get recouped someplace. You're not just going to eat that, which means, did the registrations for the fairs go up $25 per person? Do our trade shows booths go up $100 per person? all those things like that in order to absorb a cost like that.
Yeah. And it's just, like I said, the cost is the thing that I would change about a majority of the things we do, you know?
Sure.
Coffee, when it's pushing $100 a gallon, that doesn't go very far when you're talking about thousands of people. So
$100 a gallon. Oh,
depends on the area, but yeah.
Kate, you and I are in the
So
wrong line of work.
oh yeah, we've thought about it. How can I just get the coffee contract? That's it. That's all I want.
Yes. Oh my God.
So, that's but beyond, not even just food and beverage, the AV costs or the costs of doing business, which I'm not telling you guys anything. Everybody's in a business, but
Sure.
the costs continue to increase. And so
Yeah.
that's a challenge, or internet to be able to run some of the technology requires internet to be able to, and putting an internet connection in every room is just, it's expensive.
Yeah,
So
it is. It absolutely is. Well, I think there's the ideas that you guys are definitely looking at, and if costs become feasible, I think audio recording, and there's got to be a way we could even just invest in something and do it ourselves on our end. But you think about it, if you have one presenter in a given space, you could buy like a small audio recorder with a little lapel mic and just have them put it on in your set. But what do you do when you have a panel? When you've got the host
yeah,
and you've
but
got 4 people on a panel, and then do you have somebody in the audience with running a microphone who's taking questions from the audience? And all of a sudden, a little 30-minute ed session can get quite complicated on the AV side.
yeah, exactly.
Well, something to think about.
And
If
it
you're
does
a
audio
presenter,
help if
think,
you can't
what's that?
see it does audio help if you can't see the visuals that went along with it?
That's true. Yeah, for sure. It may be, the audio only might be a bridge to it, but certainly as soon as you're like, hey, we're going to do this, every single ed session has got the audio recording, then someone's going to go, but you don't have the visuals. And it's like, is it ever enough? Somebody's going to fuss about it. So, well, I think we're looking forward to a really great convention this year. I'm excited that it's in Phoenix. We're going to have amazing weather, I'm sure, because it'll be like maybe 68 to 72 degrees at that point, which I don't think most of us are used to. It's been a while since we've had nice temperatures like that in that week. So,
Well, and even some of the other locations haven't, some locations were warmer than we expected too, or colder.
yeah. Yeah, I tell you, when you guys had announced Salt Lake City, I was like, where, huh? On what week? Because I mean, Salt Lake City on that week, it could have been, 55 or 60 degrees, or it could have been 20 degrees with 5 inches of snow on the ground, being down in a bowl the way they are. But it worked out, and now we're onward to a nice warm spot in the desert that I hope everybody's looking forward to attending. One last question for you, Kate.
Mhm.
This one just a little more personal. None of us get to where we are without the influence and guidance of others. Can you tell me about someone who most influenced you in your career?
Well, I would say these people are ones that got me to that point, probably. So of course my parents, because they had me active, had me volunteering, had me in 4-H and FFA and things like that, that got me that far. And I had an FFA advisor who was very influential. He was very much, hey, you can do this, you can do
Hmm.
what you need to do. I'm not sure. He didn't know what to do. We were an all girls team. As for judging, it didn't matter if it was livestock or dairy or horses or land judging, didn't matter. We were an all girls team, and he wasn't real sure what to do with us, I think, most of the time, because one of the things I always do now is, if you pack it, you have to carry it, was his
Yes.
rule. And so, you pack that in your luggage, you have to carry it. I'm still not a great packer, but I can always carry what I pack.
It sounds like his wisdom made you a little bit more efficient in your packing abilities when you're going to conventions and things of that nature.
Sort of, or I just got better at carrying it, I think, because I'm not the expert packer. I take
Excellent.
lots of stuff.
Excellent. It's always interesting when I ask that question to people, and there have been more than a few times that someone just like you has credited someone, an advisor from FFA. So fantastic organization across this country. And I think I speak for a lot of entertainers when we see those blue FFA jackets come into our shows. We know those are good kids. And if we need them to help out in the show or be an audience volunteer, always up to the task. So that's going to wrap it up for us today. Kate, where can folks learn more about this year's IAFE convention? If they need to register, trade show booths, anything like that, where do they need to go?
They need to go to iafeconvention.com, and that has all the information, but also our staff is always here. We love talking to y'all. So you can always call the office. It's 417-862-5771.
Fantastic. Kate, thank you so much for being with us tonight. Folks, next week we've got Teresa Agricola from the South Florida Fair. We'll look forward to sharing that episode with you then. Thanks for tuning in today. Bye-bye.